All right, I think we're live. I see an ad playing now. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. But yeah, here we go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Xbox Roundtable Podcast. This is show number 296, your place for all things Xbox on Sunday nights, and of course, more goodness from across the gaming domain. I'm Invader, and it is great to have you all here for our last episode of the year. 2023 is quickly coming to a close, and we're all getting ready to enjoy the holidays. For the last show, we'll be dissecting recent comments made by Disney personnel regarding Blade and Indiana Jones Xbox exclusivity. Also, Naughty Dog came out saying that The Last of Us Online is cancelled. We will get into that big news, plus our personal games of the year. But before getting into all those fun things, let me introduce everybody on the panel tonight, starting off with Grimes. How you doing, Grimes?
What's going on, everyone? Ready for the holidays? You know what I mean. Um, and I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but I've got about 320 games installed on my Xbox.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I was so exhausted from a project I'd been working on this whole week to finish before the holidays that I just spent at least an hour each time I tried playing games, scrolling through my library to find something to play, and most of the time I just ended up playing either Roller Drome or Persona 5 Tactica, something easy on the brain. But also, has anyone else seen that new trailer for the mouse game? Uh,
Yes, I have the black and white
yeah,
FPS. It looks
yeah,
great.
yeah. I love the art style. The gameplay looks an absolute blast, and I can't wait to play it when it comes out. Although, if I were the devs, I would perhaps push it to 2026 so it doesn't clash with GTA. But obviously, it's a small studio, so Microsoft, if you're listening, just uh, give throw them a big bag of money and put it on Game Pass.
Yes. And yes, well, that's what happened with Studio MDHR. I mean, Microsoft was really into it. And I mean, hey, I love Cuphead. I'm not usually into those kinds of like bullet hell kind games, but the art style and it was just fun. I really had a good time with it.
Absolutely, yeah. I
Hmm.
agree with you 100%.
So with this being like an FPS, you know, old school Doom meets Steamboat Mickey, 1930s kind of thing. It looks exciting. I'm a big fan of classic art styles like that. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it looks so much fun, so I can't wait to play it.
hmm yeah, no, it looks cool. Looks cool, Grimes. All right, next up, who do we got here? Centurion, buddy, how you been?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just chugging away. Trying to game when I can, all over the place. There's actually, in my opinion, a lot to be playing right now, whether it's in Game Pass or games that are for sale. Um, Definitely eating good this holiday was when it comes to what gaming has to offer. Other than that, just looking forward to tonight's topics and just conversating with you guys and I guess talking about our top games of the year before we kind of log off until next year.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, anyways, because this year, I'll admit I was pretty busy at throughout the year. But that being said, when I had time to game, oh man, I've been like there are some games that I just thoroughly enjoyed and surprised me. So, yeah, no, I look forward to our personal games of the year. So, we'll get into that sometime later. But who else we got here? Dots RTS. Dots, how's things?
Things are good. Things are good. I've been just hanging out. busy day at work today, and a couple other days. But overall, like it's the year is wrapping up, as you said, and while some people can't get ready for the holidays, I can't be more than ready for the holidays to be over. um, it's been a busy time, and I think when things cool down, I'll feel a lot better about everything. So, but no, all in positivity. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, happy to go. It's a good Sunday night as always.
Indeed, indeed. All right, so let's see. Yeah, all right, chat. I see you. We got some people questioning. Oh, where's Crusader? Where's General MLD? Well, General MLD, guys, he will be here soon. He's just running a little behind, but it's all right. He said he'll be here, so I'll take him at his word. And Crusader may or may not be coming. I know he was busy earlier today, so we'll see. But again, like he's on pretty regularly, so hey, if he's a little busy, then so be it. But hey, we still got a pretty star-studded cast here, and it's pretty full. It's going to be pretty full for the most part. But yeah, guys, we got lots to talk about. I'm excited. Again, we got some pretty good topics to go through. Reminder, guys, to like and share out the show. Again, we'd love to have more wonderful people here with us live. And yeah, just help us with that pesky algorithm. Believe it or not, those likes do help. And turn on the notifications, guys. If you're not, getting notified that we are live, then just smash the bell where the notifications is, because that helps out a lot too. All right, we see the chat filling up here. We got Thimber, RWK. Who else do we got? Kenta Wilson, David, ATL. Oh, we got some pretty awesome regulars here already. Great to see you guys as usual. I hope you're having a great end to the year. And hey, we hope to have you here during the beginning of the new year as well. All right. Guys, on that note, let's move right into our first order of business, shall we? And as of right now, Disney has a couple of properties under, let's say, they're being developed under Xbox Studios, Indiana Jones, and Blade, to be precise. We just found out about Blade, a week or two ago? And it was pretty exciting. It looked pretty, I'm looking forward to that. And some are wondering what the relationship is between, what it's like between Xbox and Disney, and even questioning the exclusivity of said titles. Well, recently Disney's head of gaming, Sean Shopta, spoke with Axios, stating that basically they're confident going forward with their exclusivity with Indiana Jones. However, they're still kind of mum on from how things are seeming, but it does appear to be exclusive. Now, Grimes, I'll hit you up first on this one. Do you think Disney is happy to give out the exclusive titles to Xbox? Because they seem to have a pretty, decent relationship going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my opinion, the reason they don't really care about exclusivity is all about the cloud and the Windows platform, of course. But with cloud, you can reach millions upon millions of players, even PlayStation players that don't want to buy an Xbox console. I very much doubt Indiana Jones will be a fast or extremely busy gameplay that would be too heavy on the bandwidth. So it could be perfect for a cloud game, to play on cloud, especially now with the Nvidia GeForce Now deal being signed. Of course, we know nothing about the game, but I doubt it will be anything like Wolfenstein or Doom gameplay wise. Most likely it will be like a Tomb Raider game, wherever that be, first or third person, we don't know yet. But besides, I assume everyone that plays modern games has at least one smart device in their home, which is why I think Disney doesn't care about exclusivity. Because yeah, with cloud, you're gonna reach so many users It could be on your phone, iPad, TV, on computer, on an Xbox. So you're not really excluding PlayStation users. Um, and honestly think the only people obsessed with this topic are the media and a small minority of fans. And the same goes for Blade. We touched on it last week, but I don't think that game is so far away that it would be pointless adding a platform when so much will change in the next few years. I don't think we'll see another trailer for that game for at least another 3, maybe 4 years. Look at Perfect Dark, for example. We got an announcement in 2020, and it's been 3 years at least 3 years since we've heard anything about that game. Granted, of course, the studio suffered major changes during development, so it's a different story. But we're not going to hear about Perfect Dark for at least another 6 months, maybe even longer. So, and it's obviously a different story because it's a Microsoft property, but with Disney and Marvel being attached to the project, I'm sure they'll have to approve certain things about the game. Now, yeah, and then I'm sure you guys heard about the rumors of, with Disney maybe buying EA. I don't think that's going to happen. But first of all, it's a terrible move for both companies. I know EA isn't just a sports company, but FIFA or EAFC is what really brings them the most money. Most other properties in EA are dormant and unlikely, and it's unlikely they'll ever see the light of day. Jedi Fallen Order, for example, was an excellent game and sold extremely well, but as far as Jedi Survivor goes, they didn't really improve into the formula that much, and it suffered from major issues, technical issues. I can see EA abandoning single player games again in the near future. If because they're not releasing that many single player games right now anyway, and if they don't do as well as they expect, they'll definitely abandon them. We've spoken before about. You were gonna say something? Oh, I thought. We've spoken about BioWare previously. It's not the same BioWare we knew. That's not the fault of the current devs.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, but every individual has different visions of how they want to make the game, and the original creators of what made BioWare great, they're no longer in the studio, they're long gone. Dragon Age is in development hell because the executives at EA keep meddling with what the game is supposed to be with the development. If that was bad, just imagine how Disney would be, meddling with the development of games. I mean, we've seen what, and then there is also Battlefield, which has had several bad years. Last Battlefield I personally enjoyed was Battlefield 1.
Same.
And I can't see what either company brings to the table if besides their rumors circulating that Bob Iger wants to sell Disney, so I can't see Disney buying EA. and also most Disney properties have been declining in recent years. Look at what we've done with the Star Wars movies. I didn't mind some of them, but they've been average. The best Star Wars movie they've done was probably Rogue One, and the same goes with the shows. Apart from Mandalorian, they've all been disappointing. And then there's Marvel. I used to love the Marvel movies, but I got burnt out from so much Marvel content. But going back to video games, I much prefer Disney's current business plan in signing deals with partners. For example, I'm hyped for the Ubisoft Star Wars game. The gameplay trailer they showcased was so good. And in my opinion, that appeals to me more than the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor game. Then there's the Quantic Dream Star Wars project. David Cage is an asshole, but his studio makes state-of-the-art games every game they release. So don't expect anything less. I would love to see a Punisher game being developed by the Coalition, for example. And honestly, I can't see any other studio making a game with that much aggression.
Machine Games, maybe.
But you
I
would
get
want
you though. Yeah.
a Punisher game being a third person, and obviously the Punisher doesn't have chainsaws, but the Gears games are so bloody and so good. Or imagine Jessica Jones story-driven game by Ninja Theory. These are only possible with partnerships. Of course, you can always hire talent from any of those studios to work on games if they own EA. But the Coalition, for example, devs there are always moving to other projects. Yeah, the Gears games keep improving each time, and they look better every new release. As far as Disney and EA, the most likely scenario would be Comcast buying EA, because they've seen how much money is in the gaming industry, and they want a piece of that pie. I think that would be another terrible outcome, of course, because Comcast is a greedy company. But yeah, they're already involved with broadcasting major sports like football, golf, rugby, racing, and more sports. So it would make sense for them, but it would be a terrible move for EA. So I would much rather if they stayed as they are.
Did you ever play that Punisher game on the original Xbox?
No.
I
I didn't have my first Xbox was the 360. Yeah.
Good game. I still have it.
I should check it out. I mean, I'm sure it's available somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's just again, the secondhand market for some Xbox games is you might be able to find it. It's just I know it's a sought after game, so that, and there's quite a few others like the Conquer game as well.
I remember that game.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like, I'm sorry, but going back to the Ninja Theory, Jessica Jones. I mean, like in Hellblade is so rich in storytelling, and and it's still, people call it a walk-in simulator or whatever, but it's it still has violence and good good action, and it would be perfect for maybe a Daredevil game or a Jessica Jones game. So there's so many talented studios that would be so much better than EA, and having EA doing Disney property games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I do kind of like how, again, they kind of branch out to other publishers and developers instead of just having it in house. And even when they were just strictly with EA for a couple of years, I didn't think that was a good idea. Although they did produce, the Jedi games, and something came out of that with Respawn. But yeah, the Ubisoft game looks pretty promising, as does a few others, except for, what was it, the Knights of the Old Republic game, unfortunately. Who knows, maybe Microsoft can come in and save that. That would be nice. Um, but yeah, yeah, just interesting, this whole Disney business. General MLD, buddy, hey, I saw you sneak in there. How you doing?
Hey, yeah, doing pretty good. Yeah, been a good week in gaming. Yeah, just happy to, be here, chill, relax, talk games, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, now since I got you here, what do you think about? I guess there's two parts to this because again, Disney, they had their head of gaming talking about exclusivity. It seemed that Indiana Jones they were very cool with Xbox, kind of overseeing exclusivity with, but again, no real talk about Blade. What's going on with that?
Well, I figure it's just part of the course for these licensed games. We didn't really know much about Indiana Jones until the court documents showed otherwise. So if it wasn't for that, we would still be in the dark about that game too. So Disney being okay with Indiana Jones, that bodes very well for, say, a game like Blade. Because this was a game that was announced multiplat, but Xbox pitched to them the idea that even if it were to be exclusive to Xbox, it would still be on PC. Game Pass will give it some reach. I'm sure they might do like they've done it with other games, like the 4-day early access paid, so to get some extra revenue that way. Like there's many ways Xbox can give a return on investment. So if they convince Disney for that, and Disney went on record saying that the decision isn't up to them but up to Bethesda, then that all but confirms that Blade will also be exclusive as well. When will that launch? Will it be a next-gen title? That's still up in the air, but I feel like any Xbox fans that aren't sure, I think they could kind of rest easy and put two and two together. That Disney isn't very strict about this stuff. Like they give Spider-Man to Sony, Wolverine to Sony. At least they're open to the idea of exclusivity. And again, Xbox isn't just a console. They release their games day one on PC. So that is a sizable market to draw from. So I think that says enough there. Now, the thing about Disney with trying to get into gaming, and people say they might buy a publisher like EA, that I'm not so sure about. It just seems to me like Disney is just doing they're going like part of the course here. They just like licensing their IPs out, like how Ubisoft is making a Star Wars game and everything else we just mentioned. I think that's going to be their strategy for a little bit longer, because once you get into gaming, that is something that you can't really undo. Like, it's do or die. Like look how Google did with Stadia. It's very risky. Getting into gaming is it's not simple anymore. So if they were to go into gaming, like, they gotta pick their battles right. They gotta do something big and make sure it sticks, though. EA, however, I think it was mentioned before when I slipped in here. Like they have some successful studios, yes, but other games like they're in like dev limbo, like Dragon Age, and they have misfires like Anthem. So I think that's mostly BioWare though. But I feel like I don't know. EA still has some work to do internally to be the best publisher they can be. If I feel Disney were to buy a publisher, I feel like they would go for Ubisoft. I don't know, because Ubisoft, they're really good at releasing games every year, these big AAA games that reach a lot of people. But yeah, right now I just don't see it. I think they're happy with what they got right now. Let other developers do the work. Let other publishers foot the bill. All they gotta do is just collect that royalty money from the IPs that they own. It's just really easy on their part. They don't really have to do anything. So that's my take. They'll stay back for now. But at least with me, in terms of Xbox games, if Indiana Jones became an exclusive from a multiplat, I feel like Blade is in safe hands too within the Xbox ecosystem. So positive news for us.
All right. All right. I mean, yeah, that's pretty reasonable what you said. Again, like, as for my opinion, I personally think that, I mean, Blade, it's the same situation, with Indiana Jones that, for some reason, whatever it may be, they're just being mum, and it's just, it will be exclusive, regardless of, I mean, it is made by Arcane, obviously, and again, we had talked about this, the other week, last week, I don't know, it just seems ridiculous that it wouldn't be. It would be like weird. Again, they give out, Disney gives out exclusivity deals to Sony. They got Spider-Man, a couple of Spider-Man games now, plus they got Wolverine coming. I don't see what the big deal is. Xbox has a big enough ecosystem now that it should not be an issue. It's ever-reaching and growing, and cloud capabilities, so on, PC, console. I don't see the issue, personally. Moving on down here, Centurion. Hey, I would love to know your thoughts here, pal. Do you agree with what the General and Grimes are saying here, or do you have another perspective to add?
Well, I agree, but everyone has their own perspective.
Hmm.
Real quick, well, for starters, I do not foresee Disney wanting to purchase a publisher. So before they purchased Star Wars, Disney had pretty much dissolved, I think, Disney Game Studios and anything that had to do with video game production,
Yeah.
like development. Disney pulled out of video games a long time ago. At
Hmm.
least the powers that be currently that are in charge of Disney are perfectly fine with licensing out any content that people want to use, which is why um that goes hand in hand in why they feel that they don't care whether the game is exclusive or not. Um because Disney does what Disney wants to. I mean, these guys literally are a powerhouse in the entertainment industry. They're a powerhouse in the family theme park industry. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff that is in decline in Disney, but at the same time, Disney is one of these companies that constantly roll the dice on new projects and new things. And every once in a while, lightning hits and they have a big success. They establish another franchise. I know the Star Wars movies haven't exactly been hitting. But let's take the movie Encanto. For like my wife totally loved that movie. That movie was a totally breakout success for Disney. And that's where, yeah, Disney has the ability to it's kind of like Microsoft is with Xbox. Basically the company Xbox does not hinge or die. The company Microsoft does not hinge, live, or die on the success of Xbox. Xbox is just a branch. Sometimes that branch bears fruit. Other times it could be lacking leaves. And that's kind of like how Disney is. They have a lot of different IPs and ways of creating money. And one of the things they got out of was game production, and that's where they leave it to guys that want to do it. Which is where in why would Disney want to get involved in one of the publishers like Grimes point out that one of their bread and butters is like FIFA and other sports games. Um, but the hilarious part is, Grimes did try to point out that, single player games are actually in a decline. Well, the big problem for EA right now is a lot of these big sports powerhouses like FIFA don't want to let EA kind of do what they've been doing with the franchises now. Which is where I believe now, if I'm correct, they're not even really calling it FIFA anymore. Am I right?
It's EAFC.
EAFC, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, because now that's one of the big things that EA is going to find a problem is they cannot do like some of these likenesses of the athletes involved in the sport. So that means no longer you're going to have these people that are going to be like, oh, I want to play as my favorite person on that team, or I want to play on that team. Because EA is now going to have to create like canon teams, canon people, stuff that, you're going to be able to sit there and be like, oh, I recognize those teams' colors and I recognize what that guy represents, but it's not really him. Um, and that's where I feel like EA is at a little bit of an impasse as a company. I do not really see them as considering single player games as a total loss or an out. If that was the case, I don't think they would have paid to remaster Dead Space. And I believe Dead Space was kind of like showing like, hey, I don't want to say it was an apology, but it was definitely like an okay, we got it wrong when they said that single player games were no longer the end thing and they were completely being torn apart for their loot box practices and other stuff. And lo and behold, they did the remake for Dead Space, and of course, a lot of people raved about it. They were very excited for it. So I'm pretty sure EA wants to continue down that path of trying to recapture fanfare because, I mean, let's face it, for whatever reason, EA is one of those companies that has always been one of those sitting on top of Crap Mountain, like as one of the worst companies in gaming. Let's just face it, they're also very well known for shutting down companies, which is why I understand why Grimes talked about like what's going on with BioWare. Um, I've always wondered that, who's going to get shut down first in the future, DICE, or is it going to be BioWare? But now with, I believe, Vince Zampella helping out at DICE and trying to restabilize the Battlefield franchise, it's leaning more towards could we really see BioWare's last hurrah in the next Dragon Age game and the Mass Effect game that they're working on? And if by some chance they're not like breakout successes, is BioWare going to be the next ones where we see the doors get closed on the developer? But circling back around, this is where at least I might differ on people's opinions. Don't get me wrong, I understand everybody's argument of, like, I guess if you're looking at it from a fanfare perspective, the Xbox brand needs A, B, and C, but at the end of the day, Microsoft is not like Sony. Microsoft does things a little differently. And we have to lean back to what the guy said that is in charge of a little bit of the Xbox brand. We're not talking about Phil Spencer. I think it was like Tim Stewart or something like that, who came out and said that, games that Xbox makes or has deals with either A, are exclusive or come out first on Xbox and play best on Xbox. That's one of those things where I don't think that Blade or Indiana Jones are not going to be exclusive, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to lose sleep if they don't become exclusive, or if by some chance later on in life they do get put on other consoles. Because at the end of the day, I want the brand that I prefer to play games on to keep going forward. And in my opinion, the Xbox is hitting on all cylinders. Xbox is delivering a lot of content and a lot of games for the fans of Xbox and people that choose to use the ecosystem wherever they play. Xbox, in my opinion, is one of the last strongholds of one of the last strongholds of valuing their consumers. Um, they don't treat their consumers like walking ATMs a majority of the time, like PlayStation and Nintendo does. PlayStation tries to find more avenues of charging people either the same and offering less, or charging more for something that Xbox gives to fans a majority of the time free of charge. Like, what is it? The system of basically giving enhancements for games, where on the PlayStation side, a majority of the time it costs $10 or more to get these enhancements, where on Xbox, a majority of the time you get them for free through first party studios. It's very rare that you get charged for them. But also, Xbox is hiring developers left and right. It seems like the Xbox is not slowing down, where we see other brands, where we have Nintendo in this complete limbo of, are they coming out with another Nintendo? Are they not coming out with another Nintendo? The Nintendo Switch is one of the worst places to play certain multi-platform games. It's basically the Nintendo, literally is only good for first-party studio entertainment. And Nintendo decides to always charge its fans like top dollar for those games. You very rarely see things on sale. Where Xbox has no problem putting some of their top games very competitively priced, even like times right now where they're doing the countdown sale on the Xbox store. And obviously with PlayStation, we will talk about it more later, but PlayStation's getting into some serious dire straits. It feels like PlayStation is about to go through Microsoft's 2014, and that's where it's kind of like the role reversal. And that's why I just say, I don't care if Blade by some chance is an exclusive or a timed exclusive. I know for a fact that no matter what, the best place to play that game is going to be Xbox, hands down. And this is going to be nothing more than another way to keep the brand going forward and outpacing the competition.
Well said there, Centurion. I mean, I have to agree with you. I mean, my preference for Blade is obviously going to be on Xbox, just because, first of all, the ease of access. I can just play it on Game Pass, right? Everything comes day one Game Pass if it's first party, so why not? You're going to have loads and loads of people in the ecosystem. Especially, this game, I would imagine it's at least, let's say, 3 years off, like, for example.
Right. Well, like, that's one of those things where I still stand by my original thoughts on the ABK deal when it was first mentioned by Xbox and Activision and everybody was talking about it. And that's one of those things where I believe if the CMA and the FTC did not throw as much of a crybaby fit with Jim Ryan leading the way, I know for a fact that Xbox would have kept Call of Duty multi-platform no matter what, but their ace in the hole would have been like, you could play it on Game Pass over here, where over there you're going to pay $70 just to play the base game. So that's one of those things where we know, I hate to use the reference, but we all know that PlayStation's butthole puckered when they were like, oh my God, if they put that on Game Pass, they will completely tank the whole reason to play Call of Duty on PlayStation, because who the hell in their right mind is going to go pay $70 when over there it's $15? Unless you're absolutely insane and dedicated to the brand, you are going to go where it's cheaper. And that's why I do believe that Jim Ryan and whatever powers that were trying to defend PlayStation or Sony wanted to make sure that Call of Duty was put in any streaming service or any subscription service, to make sure that Call of Duty could not be weaponized for the Xbox platform. And I do believe if by some chance that never occurred, that would have been the ace in the hole that Microsoft would have had with Call of Duty. But this, again, is going to be another ace in the hole for Xbox, that if by some chance that game does become multi-platform, you ain't going to see that in PlayStation Plus. You're not going to see it on NVIDIA GeForce. You're going to probably, only place you're probably going to be able to get that game day and date for $15 is Game Pass.
That's right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, you got so many games now being made by Xbox, especially with some of these interesting IP from Disney. Yeah, if you're a multi-console owner, it's one thing, but if you're just let's say a PlayStation only guy, Nintendo only guy, yeah, you might have to, go into the Xbox ecosystem. I say ecosystem because again, it would be like PC, console, cloud,
Well,
etc., etc. So.
right, and that's where one thing that Xbox has as a weapon that literally PlayStation is behind the times on is Xbox has been cutting deals with all these streaming services. And like right now, if I wanted to, I could unplug my Xbox from the wall and fire up my Samsung OLED and play on the Samsung Game Hub, and they have the Xbox Game Pass as part of the hub. So I could literally play an Xbox game right now on my Samsung television with no console needed.
Yeah, that's nice. Again, that's nice. And these things are going to get better and better over time. At least that's the hope, anyways. Man, technology's moving at such a rapid speed these days. Wouldn't have
Well,
even thought about this, like,
right.
you know.
Right now, but here's the cool part. We all know that NVIDIA GeForce is the premier streaming service for playing games on that level without a console. And because I've heard that NVIDIA GeForce is actually very well when it comes to latency and lag. And Microsoft is obviously buddy with them. So if NVIDIA GeForce ever gets put on a scale like with like the Samsung Gaming Hub or on LG televisions or other televisions, that's just going to facilitate it even further that people will have access to Xbox ecosystem games through other services other than Game Pass. So if by some chance you're not happy with the technology of XCloud, and you can get stuff like GeForce later on in life on platforms like a television, then you can just go to the platform you prefer. Like Microsoft does not care where you play games or interact with them as long as you're pretty much interacting with the ecosystem.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's all ecosystem based. So, ecosystem spread through Game Pass pretty much. So, again, Game Pass is that linchpin that holds everything together. And I guess the cloud, it's growing. It's growing. It's going to get better. But again, I do like the ecosystem approach. And people thought I was crazy back in like 2015, 2016 when they were talking about this stuff. But I'm like, yeah, the multi-pronged attack, going into the near future, I think that's a really, really good idea. Right, let's see. Dots, buddy, I would like to hear from you on this one. Do you agree with what the guys are saying here? You got some thoughts to share? Please, let us know.
You not giving me much of a follow-up after all that. Gosh damn. All right. Honestly, like, a lot of the good points have been made. Centurion, as always, you hit a lot of nails on the head. And Grimes, we can talk about your Star Wars slander later. But honestly, like, I'm not big into the Marvel games, so like this whole Blade fiasco is a little bit out of my niche. But like, I saw the trailer at the Game Awards, like a lot of other people did, and like my brain definitely was not like, oh, Xbox exclusivity. It was, I just hope that Xbox gets it, and I have a feeling they will. Twitter's a whole mess of people fighting back and forth of oh, only PlayStation gets it, or oh, only Xbox gets it, or hey, but everybody gets it. It's always the same mess there. But like in terms of what Disney plans on doing, Disney itself has always been a wild card in my mind. I honestly do hope that they eventually do kind of stick to an Xbox exclusivity deal. I think that would be really a very interesting. I think it would be a good choice for them. I think Xbox would be the safer place to put it, because I think the one thing that Disney could do to benefit itself is put more of their IPs into more people's hands, and the best way to do that is Game Pass. That would be the driving force that would allow Disney to get more of their IP stuff into so many people's hands, and by doing that, that feeds into people going into their IPs and then, deciding, hey, I want to spend money on this, cosmetics or what other DLC microtransactions that, all these different games are being putting out these days. I mean, the fact that oh man, I lost my train of thought there. I think it would be good if they stuck with Xbox. Get some more Game Pass going on. The whole thing with EA, I think that would be interesting. I think that, yeah, while Star Wars is a big topic, while their Marvel stuff is a big topic, definitely the fact that if Disney grabs EA for whatever reason, Disney also owns ESPN. So that's a huge, huge sports news network. And if they own EA, which has some of the biggest sports games in the world, even if it's, not FIFA anymore kind of things. And then obviously their shit show of a Madden game every year that they put out. But still, people buy into it and people still spend thousands of dollars on those microtransactions and, card packs or whatever the heck gimmick the FIFA game has, those are massive money markets that if Disney tied into, as well as having their connections with ESPN, whether I don't know how you collab with a news network, but that's still two big, sports properties that people look into. That would be huge for them. And so as much as I don't think Disney needs more money, I have my business degree, I have my business knowledge, that would be extremely beneficial if Disney somehow snatched up EA, because then that would lock in obviously they would whatever IPs they want to let EA keep making for them, even if Star Wars isn't their main thing anymore. That obviously then they would be the front runners of that. They would have control of what comes out, and then grabbing things like the not FIFA game and Madden and all that stuff on top of having one of the biggest sports news networks at the same time. I'm sure they could tie that into some big bucks coming in, filling their already full pockets, and they have to buy another bank to put all the rest of their money in. But once again, but then at the same time, I think that could still benefit the gamers. I think I wouldn't even say as far as that would cause a monopoly of anything, because honestly, sports games have already been kind of monopolized at this point, and just them changing the hands of the owner to a different owner, it doesn't matter, at least to my opinion, enough to cause an upset in the gaming community, as much as it would just be oh, Disney gets more money, the games stay relatively the same, and the people who just dive into those sports games stay in those sports games. So that's my thoughts on Disney with EA, at least in that regard. And then in terms of just the exclusivity, I think it would be in their best interest to try to throw more into Xbox exclusivity, but at the moment I don't see that happening. I think that it wouldn't be surprising if Disney's scared, or at least Disney's lawyers or whoever their decision makers are scared of upsetting the already easily triggered Sony PlayStation community by saying, oh, we're gonna put Indiana Jones, one thing, but Blade, oh yeah, everyone loves Blade, something that a lot of kids these days never even seen the original movie, let alone it's only hyped up because the older generation actually knows who Blade is hyping it up, and everyone else is just getting on the same train. So we'll see on that. But I think Disney has a lot of big money choices they could make. I do not think they're going to make them at this moment, but I think with time, if they come to see it as I'm potentially seeing it as, or others who have shared the same opinion, there's hope. There's hope that they could potentially make a good choice and be like, hey, Xbox is in our favor. I want everyone. I want the Encanto game on Xbox Game Pass tomorrow, and people will play it because it's going to be bad, but people will play it because they want to play the Encanto game.
So my question is, there is a scenario here. I'm not gonna say how likely it is, but so you have an Indiana Jones game in development. You have a Blade game now just recently in development. And it would be interesting to see a Star Wars game made exclusive, to be honest. Unfortunately, like I think I had brought up earlier, was it the Knights of the Old Republic remake is kind of, I don't know what you would call it, if it was just like kind of canned or in limbo, but the project just seems lifeless at the moment. I don't know. I mean, there seems to be an opportunity here where, I mean, Microsoft, Xbox could save the project. I mean, I don't know who you give it to be honest. But
I know it would be the biggest middle finger to everybody. Give the game back to Obsidian.
Yep.
Yeah, give the game back to the guys that originally made. So if I'm right, BioWare did the first one, Obsidian did the second one.
To be honest, I'm not sure. To be honest,
they
I'm not
did.
sure.
But that said, they got a lot on their plate, though. I mean, they got Outer Worlds and Avowed, and then the people want to make Pillars of Eternity 3, New Vegas 2.
I want to say
Outer Worlds requests for them. Just saying.
That's the other thing. Everybody wants them to do New Vegas 2, but New Vegas 2 is honestly, if we were to really think about it, is nothing more than a concept on a notepad or a napkin, where we know that Avowed and The Outer Worlds 2 are pretty far in production, and I'm pretty sure as soon as Avowed or Outer Worlds 2 comes out, they could have that discussion of like, yo, there's all these assets that are sitting on a hard drive somewhere, God knows where, and it's pretty much floundering into non-existence. I mean, do you guys want to at least take a peek and see if you can make anything heads or tails of what's left, and see if you want to go down this road, or just completely say screw it? But I mean, I would definitely say there's probably some potential there where you might just see them just have to flip the coin. Like, do we want to take another stab at doing KOTOR? And that would be their hallmark. If you really think about it, they did KOTOR 2, and to be able to do the remake of the first game, and then you would essentially would have worked on both games essentially. I don't know. You'd have to really flip a coin just to be like, do we want to do Fallout New Vegas 2, or do we want to do KOTOR? And just show them that, I mean, we can really do this, and especially with the first game. I don't know. I just think it'd be funny as hell just to see Phil Spencer walk out on stage and just point up at the screen and just have the image of the KOTOR banner come up and be like, oh yeah, that shit's our now, and just throw the microphone on the stage and just walk away.
Well,
yeah, that would be cool. I'm not going to deny that. But, I mean, given how far Fallout 5 is out, I wouldn't mind something in between. But that's just me. Because like they're making Elder Scrolls first, and then Fallout 5. So I don't want to wait another 10 years for a Fallout game, right?
Well, wait a minute. Fallout's Bethesda. Obsidian is their own company now.
I know, but since it's all under the same umbrella, they could pick up the slack in the meantime.
Well, the funny part is now you've got Activision. I mean, you could literally have somebody that's like really wanting to cut their teeth as a support studio, and they could like get under the banner with Obsidian and really start being like, hey, we're tired of working on Call of Duty, and all of a sudden you could see a collaboration and a cooperation where you could see studios come together and start making games like this actually possible, just because they're no longer like shoehorned into working on Call of Duty constantly.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want Sledgehammer to make it either, you know?
Oh, well,
you got, but that's the cool, like a lot of these studios are already used to being, I'm not talking like the main ones, but there's a lot of studios out there, at least through ABK, that pretty much have been stuck in the realm of support studios, but they're only supporting Call of Duty. I'm pretty sure they would have no problem being another support studio, but it's like, hey, guess what? It's KOTOR, and it's an RPG. You would probably see some people probably get on the ground and start crying for joy just because they're not going to have to work on a first-person shooter.
You'd be surprised what studios would get excited over just doing something different. I mean, hell, I'm pretty sure Raven wouldn't mind doing something different, or again, like you guys were saying, like a number of those support studios, there's so many of them. It's like, yes, we get to do something different that's not a first-person shooter, military shooter. It's like, it might not be RIP, but it's something, right? It doesn't even have to be a full dedicated team. It could just be,
True.
right? So, but alas, just an idea, guys. I'm just saying, why not go for, something like that? Because, again, Sony was touting that not, a little while back, and things just kind of got really sour. So, but it'd be nice to get KOTOR back. It would be nice to get KOTOR back. All right, guys, any more comments, concerns, opinions regarding some of the Disney comments? Yes, no? All right. Safe to say, time to put a lid on that conversation, but a pretty good one nonetheless. And we'll keep up to date about again these different things that come out regarding exclusivity. I'm not too worried, but again, somebody says something and then social media goes nuts. But time will tell. But I think it's safe to say that it's exclusive, especially Blade. All right, guys, if you haven't done so already, smash that like button and share the show out. Guys, let everybody know that we're live. This is the last show of ours for 2023, and hey, so far it's rocking. And the chat's been awesome, guys. I've been looking at all your comments. You guys really know how to rock it. All right. I think it's time to hosey on down to the next topic, and one that's been kind of the talk of the town the last few days, if I may say so. And a few days ago, Studio Naughty Dog made a statement saying that The Last of Us Online is officially canceled. While the team was excited about, just about the project, the scale of it became, well, a lot more than what they thought it would be. And then the studio was faced with a kind of a directional crisis, according to what they said in their statement, to either go solely live service or continue on with just narrative-focused experiences. That is kind of an existential crisis for the studio, if I may say. I don't know if Sony had put them in a bit of a spot there, especially with games as a service, the focus that they wanted to go for. Ooh, I don't know. But a lot of fans of the factions and The Last of Us Online very disappointed, and it sucks. What do you want me to say? But it is quite the story here. I know basically everybody wants to go into it. General MLD, but I'll start off with you first. What do you make about Naughty Dog's statement here?
Well, looks like it's part of a trend, a bit of a correction course, to say the least. Feel like it all started when ABK went through and Jim Ryan's big push to cancel it failed, and he lost his authority. And it seems when that happened, his ambitions kind of went away with him, because they are now saying how they wanted like 10 to 12 games as a service games in the next few years. Well, that number's been slashed at least in half that we know of right now. Another example I remember hearing was a published game from Deviation Games canceled, and then we have the thing with Bungie going on there. Destiny 2's losing players, layoffs, their expansion was delayed, Marathon delayed into 2025. Sony might take control of them if Bungie can't turn it around, and now we have Factions 2 canceled. Because this is significant to me, because this is Naughty Dog we're talking about. They were arguably the top developer of PlayStation. The games they put out in the last generation or two, starting with the Uncharted, Last of Us series, and all that stuff, it put them on the map in a pretty big way. So it kind of shows some cracks in the armor here. They promised this game for a few years now, and what's fishy is that they said they didn't want to support this game for years after launch, but isn't that literally what the goal was, what they signed up for, to make a live service game? So it's like they're starting something, knowing what it is, but then realizing they don't want to go through with it anymore, so they just stop. But another part that's weird is that they used to be able to make multiplayer games. Last of Us 1 had a multiplayer component alongside the single player component. And it's like over the last 10 years, they just forgot how to do it. Like when they remade The Last of Us Part 1, it didn't ship with the multiplayer. People noticed. And I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't you do that? Like, that's just free engagement. You're going to get people playing your game for years after they beat the original campaign. Like, especially with all these new gamers that are getting into the game after the TV show. Why haven't they done it? And now, to me, it's kind of clear now. They're just so used to single-player games, they just don't know how to do anything else now. They never mind some massive live service game. They could have easily just made a Factions Part 2, like not like a regular multiplayer game that built upon the first one, and that would have been enough for many gamers. So I don't see why they couldn't do that. And then there's another issue that PlayStation, they kept saying they want to grow their studios organically. How come you can't hire more people here? Why couldn't they hire people to do this as well as their single-player games? They could have done both. It's not like they're one of their lesser studios. This is Naughty Dog we're talking about. So the fact that Sony isn't committing to these guys and making them, no pun intended, a one-trick pony, like, that to me says something. It shows that their whole games as a service push, it's in shambles. Because if they can't do it, if Bungie's struggling, then the whole operation's a mess, in my opinion. And that to me is amusing on another level, because this they did completely by themselves. This is their own doing. They made the decision to over-specialize in single-player games in the PS4 generation, because the PS3, they did everything. Single-player, multiplayer, they had some good variety, but PS4, they over-specialized, and they made the mistake of over-relying on third-party multiplayer games and their marketing deals to get by, like Call of Duty. And look where that turned out. It's now an Xbox game. They can't make those marketing deals anymore. It's now an Xbox game now. So now they gotta look elsewhere. Now they gotta make their own. But they realize they forgot how to make their own. Whereas Xbox, they got the most genre diversity I've ever seen. Like, they're making small games, they're making big games, they're making big single player games, they're making games as service games. Whether it's made like from the ground up, like Grounded, or Sea of Thieves, or bot games like World of Warcraft or Call of Duty and Warzone and the like. That's how you do it. See, Xbox knows it's far, far riskier to make a games as a service game from the ground up, because most of them fail. The current market right now is saturated. You got to make a game that's going to pull people away from Apex Legends, from Fortnite, from Minecraft, from Call of Duty. Good luck doing that. Xbox, at least they bought what was established and reap the benefits, keep them going, and reinvest themselves into new single-player experiences. Whereas PlayStation, they are now stuck. They're in the opposite camp, and they cannot do these from scratch because the risk is too great, and they know it. So it kind of shows you how each brand is positioned for the future. I'm not saying PlayStation is going anywhere, but they cannot diversify their games. That much we know now. Because they want their games to have a revenue stream beyond the initial one and done of a single player game. But they can't get it. And they want it, but they can't get it. Whereas Xbox, they got a little bit of everything. So I'm glad to be an Xbox gamer, knowing I'm going to get that kind of variety. If I want a single player game, I'm there. If I want a multiplayer game, I got that too. Whereas Sony, they're kind of backed themselves into a corner right now. So to me, it's a little bit of karma that their best developer is struggling this much, and canceling a game is no laughing matter. Like, this was a game that many looked forward to, and again, from a flagship franchise, from a flagship developer, that says something. People say what you want about Halo Infinite. Those guys made a single player game and a multiplayer game at the same time in the middle of a pandemic. How many Sony developers can do the same? Zero. So I just want that's my rant. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about that.
Now, General, they did a remaster. Don't forget about that.
The Last of Us 2 reheated leftovers in the microwave? Does that count? I guess, but that's not really multiplayer though. Is that
No,
Rogue
no, but they did something. They did something, right? I mean, I guess that sort
something?
of counts. It is content, sort of, right? Rehashed, but it is content.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it passes as content. So yeah, they got Naughty Dog's got they got some work to do to reclaim that lost glory they once had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Naughty Dog is an interesting case. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were looking forward to this mode because the factions community, the online for the original Last of Us, very passionate. A lot of people talk about it. I had dabbled in it a little bit. I wasn't really too into it myself, but a lot of people liked it, and I was like, okay, if you guys could get this game mode eventually, this separate experience. Honestly, I would have been happy, but it sucks. It sucks. I know, it just seems like a lot of people got their hopes up. Sony and Naughty Dog got their hopes up. It's unfortunate. Let's see. Dots RTS. Dots, I'll be honest, I don't know if you've ever played like The Last of Us or Factions or anything like that. That being said, Naughty Dog's statement, I'll admit, I was surprised. I was surprised when it got released because it seemed like, they were taking their time with it and they wanted to make it, as good as it could be. But I don't know, making this statement right before the holidays, right before the end of the year, it's just kind of, I don't want to say last minute, but at the same time, it is kind of striking that they're like, the project just kind of eclipsed a lot more than what, the scope of what we thought it was going to be. And it just sounded like it was hogging too many resources and so on. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Were you looking forward to it, or is it just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, PlayStation just had to cut it?
To be brutally honest, until today, when you told us what we were talking about today, I didn't even know Last of Us had an online. I thought it was
not the
just a
second
single
one. Not the
player.
second one. The first one did, and a lot of people are like, "Where's Factions? Where's Factions?"
I don't even know what Factions is. I've never heard of these terms before today. I thought Last of Us was exclusively single player. I didn't even know they had an online version of it.
Well,
So,
this would have been a separate experience because it didn't come with The Last of Us 2, and a lot of people were like, where is it? We want our online experience with The Last of Us. Like, okay. So they were working on something in the same vein, and apparently it got to be more than what it was supposed to be, but now it just got canned. Just got canned.
Okay. Honestly, without, so I don't, go on a ramble or anything, because I know I do that from time to time. I have a feeling that, I mean, I think this is a big hit to Sony. I think this is a big hit to the PlayStation, because I feel like with the name Last of Us, they have put a lot of time and effort into making this one of their poster children games. A fact that it's not even 10 years old and they had a remaster come out of it. We've had that whole topic of conversation before. So to have them, do something with the Last of Us brand name and then having to scrap it, I think that shows that there is something wrong with the inner workings over there, and that should be a big, red flag of, hey, things are not, if they are saying things are going okay, they're lying kind of issue. So I don't know. I think time will tell, like, the true, like, outcome of that. But I think yeah, it's not a good sign. It's nice and simple is, if they have to put something with the Last of Us name IP in the dirt, that means something's not going well over there. And so that we definitely want to keep our eyes open of, follow-up news, because I'm sure we'll get some insider information or leaks, or, people talking about it when out of NDA of, hey, this is why this happened, or hey, this is the situation in our studio. So definitely a red flag eye opener, keep your ears open kind of situation is what I'm getting from that.
All right, that's fair enough. I mean, it is highly suspicious, like you said, that this is a pretty big IP for them, one of their biggest in recent years, and again, to can a mode for it, yeah, it is kind of suspect, especially with them kind of downgrading their games as a service going forward. Not looking good. Not looking good. Let's see. Grimes. I mean, I'd like to hear your input on this. Again, I found it to be kind of surprising. I mean, I knew that they were, we're always being told that, yeah, Sony, PlayStation, they were, again, trying to go away from games as a service, because that was something that Jim Ryan was focusing on now that he's leaving. I think he's leaving in April or March, if I'm not mistaken. That they were going to shift away from games as a service. I'm just kind of surprised that it was, again, something relating to The Last of Us. I'm still kind of surprised that they did that, but it must have been a resource hog, even for a smaller project. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, I agree with you. Last of Us being cancelled is no surprise to anyone, really. But I do feel for any developer who spent the last few years working on that project. It's never easy having a project you've dedicated hundreds of hours working on being cancelled. And let's be honest, I don't think Naughty Dogs even wanted to make that game. This was 100% Jim Ryan's brainchild. The game didn't sound fun, and I can see players checking it out the first month or so, and then the game dying a slow death. There are way too many live service games right now, and it's impossible. It's an impossible task to compete with them if your game doesn't stand out. And I don't think they had a good plan for that live service game. Um, their statement, as many of you guys have mentioned, was funny. How they said live service games bad, single players games good, and we cannot do both. And that they would have to become a live service studio in order for the game to succeed. I don't think that's necessarily true, as other studios have proved they can do both single player and live service. I think it all comes down to money. Sony, in reality, is hurting for money. They probably cannot afford to hire another 100 developers for a live service division at Naughty Dog. But they don't realize it takes time and effort to make a live service game. General mentioned Sea of Thieves. That game launched at such a sad state. It barely had anything at launch. But look at it now. Several expansions, constant 3 content, and most recently they even added a private servers for gamers that don't want that are too afraid of their loot being stolen from other players, playing with other players. So they didn't have to do it, but they added private servers called Safer Seas. Another game, look at Warframe. That game launched in 2013 and is still bringing good numbers. So it's possible to start from nothing and then become this massive game. And it's funny how the media did react to the game being cancelled. They praised the decision, but I'm not surprised really, because a lot of them just play on PlayStation and they like their single player games. I haven't played either of the Last of Us games, but I definitely want to check them out eventually. But yeah, let them focus on single player games, I say. And I can see them reusing a lot of those assets from the faction game for Last of Us 3, which a lot of studios do anyway. Most studios reuse assets in order to speed development, because otherwise it would take an eternity making new assets for a brand new game. But anyway, yeah, Naughty Dog, it's a legendary studio, so let them focus on what they do best. It's no surprise to anyone. Again, it was all about Jim Ryan making all those decisions, and I'm pretty sure Sony, his bosses weren't happy with his leadership, and they most likely either they gave him two options: to either leave or being removed, because look at the decisions we've been making now. All those, as you guys mentioned, all those live services he wanted to make are decreasing in number by month. So who knows if they'll even make one live service game at the end of the day. That's all I have to say, really.
All right. Fair enough there, Grimes. And again, interesting perspective there. Let's see. Who else do we got to round out this? Oh, Centurion. I don't think you've had a chance to speak on this yet. Please, my desert friend, what are your thoughts on all this? Because, again, I feel for the fans here, right? Because it just seems like, everyone had their hopes kind of shattered here. They kind of led them along for a couple of years. They'd say the occasional thing, and again, just like in a post, it's like, damn, that sucks. That's really sucks for factions fans.
Yeah. So, all right. If you really want to know where I think about this,
Possibly.
this is what you fucking get. Excuse my French, but I mean, clip that, share it with your PlayStation buddies. This is what you get for running your mouth. We all remember when Scalebound was a thing. It was in heavy development. We saw some gameplay videos. It wasn't all that great, and it got canceled. Scalebound has been one of the black eyes for the Xbox brand, and of course, everybody brings it out like it's some glorified receipt whenever something goes down at Xbox. Like, oh, Xbox doesn't know what they're doing. Well, let's really objectively look at this. Xbox hired a third-party company that took their money and instead of making Scalebound, went and did other things, but that's a third-party company. Somebody physically has to go over to Platinum Games, knock on the door, and find out what they're doing. Phil Spencer did, saw that it was a circus, and he axed that game in a hot second. But Factions, Naughty Dog, first-party studio game. That means Sony only has to pick up the phone and ask what is going on. Get some emails, demand results. And so let's really talk about mismanagement. Like I'm just pointing out, like right now, like this is essentially Sony's Scalebound moment. People knew it was coming. People were fed this little carrot on the end of a string. And of course, it was snatched away very quickly. So the next time somebody decides to bring up Scalebound into a conversation with me, I'm gonna tell them to go ahead and go find Last of Us Factions and see how that feels. Um, and this just goes into a whole history. I mean, a whole situation with what's going on with Sony, because we obviously saw mismanagement with like KOTOR, even though they didn't really have nothing to do with that, but yet another black eye for some marketing. What about the abandoned game? Like it's like Sony is so desperate to outpace Xbox that they just make these silly decisions. And that's where we get into these conversations about what was Jim Ryan doing. Well, let's think about what he's been doing. And please, I love playing PlayStation games. I love what they have to offer. I've picked on Jim Ryan a lot though for a very big reason, and this is one of the things I've been wanting to point out for a long time. And finally, it's all starting to come crystal clear for people. Let's look at this. God of War. We want to make some DLC called Ragnarok. No, 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 no. Turn that into a full game. Spider-Man. Hey, we want to make some DLC called Miles Morales. No, 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 no. Turn that into a full game. Hey, we're building Last of Us 2 and we want to put a multiplayer mechanic into it. No, no, no. Make that into a full game. He has taken stuff that should have been put in with the original game, sold as DLC, and tried to turn them into these full-fledged standalone games, essentially taking studios away from being able to work on new IPs and craft new ideas, or maybe further IPs that deserve a little bit more spotlight. Looking at you with Days Gone. I mean, hopefully whoever takes Jim Ryan's place over there undoes what he did, and they allow Ben Studios to go ahead and work on Days Gone 2. I would love it. I have still yet to purchase Spider-Man 2. But if Days Gone 2 was to come out tomorrow, F&A, I'd be there buying that game day one. So if that just totally goes, I am Spider-Man'd out. Like Grimes said earlier, I mean, like, dude, Marvel is just like, out of all the Marvel franchises, I understand Spider-Man is one of the most popular, but at the same time, dude, in my lifetime, I'm only 37 years old, and I have seen multiple actors play Spider-Man, multiple Spider-Man cartoons. There is multiple IPs in the Marvel universe that deserve more screen time than Spider-Man. And that's where I just really I mean, this is where I really do feel that at least what Jim Ryan was doing finally bit him in the butt, chasing the whole almighty, let me make sure anything I do has some kind of a reference to, movies or television. And like, let's not even really dedicate very much to our own internal IP anymore. Hence remasters and turning stuff that should be DLC into full-fledged games. And then he went all in with Bungie, and Bungie obviously kind of was one of the reasons why Factions was like had a big monkey wrench thrown in it, because it wasn't games as a service enough. It wasn't grindy enough. Like, dude, like, I knew that Last of Us had a multiplayer element. For those who also don't know, even Uncharted had a multiplayer element as well. And like, those multiplayer elements were very extremely basic. People enjoyed them for their simplicity. I think if Factions would have came out as games as a service, people would have lost their minds, because that's like that's what made those multiplayer mechanics for those games very fanfare favorites, was the simplicity of them. And with the creators of Destiny meddling in there, for starters, probably created a big monkey wrench in the situation, where they were dedicating an absolutely asinine amount of resources on how do we turn this into a full-fledged game. And then they saw probably some of the struggles that 343 went through, turning Halo Infinite into even a bigger games as a service style game. And that's when they realized, oh my God, games as a service is a money pit. And it's like, no shit. Like, You didn't think it was a money pit. You didn't think it was going to be a large uphill battle. You didn't think that just because you put the rubber stamp of Sony on it, it was going to be an instantaneous smash out success. Oh, come on now. You're fooling everybody, including yourselves. And that's where, yeah, we're starting to see things kind of change for Sony. The only game that they have to offer next year, to my knowledge and to everybody's knowledge currently, is the Wolverine game. I really hope they knock that game out of the park. Not for Sony's sake, but for the IP of Wolverine's sake, because how long has it been since we've got anything other than, I mean, dude, the X-Men themselves deserve a much fairer shot in today's Marvel universe. And I just want to see them knock that out of the park just because Wolverine deserves that kind of a recognition. But that's the sad part, is like that's the only thing they have to currently offer right now, because Jim Ryan had them all super hyperbolically focused on turning, again, stuff that should have been DLC into a full-fledged game, and going down this rabbit hole of games as a service because he saw what Xbox can do. And that's where, like next year is going to be a very interesting time for PlayStation, and hopefully we're going to be able to break down some of those barriers that have been built over time, and thinking that PlayStation is just this infallible giant in the gaming industry. And I really hope that this whole situation with factions, everything that's going on behind the scenes with PlayStation, is really going to make some community members and media members humble the F up.
Well said, well said. Yeah, I mean, it is a bit humbling, in a lot of ways. Again, PlayStation kind of ran away last gen, with things. This gen has been way more competitive. I mean, Xbox has really brought it. Hell, even Nintendo's been extremely successful with the Switch, the good old Switch. That being said, yeah, I mean, Xbox has been very successful with even some of their smaller projects. Someone alluded to Grounded, for example. Small project, small team, but man, very successful, and has a very large community there building things up, constantly adding things. And yet, again, a studio like Naughty Dog, a very successful, very talented, just can't get things done with, again, this multiplayer. Again, we don't know exactly how things were, what was said behind closed doors. That being said, though, again, it's a shame. I know there are a lot of people. I knew people that were looking forward to it, so that does suck. That does suck. So, again, here's hoping that The Last of Us 3, whenever that gets officially announced, turns out to be all right. And who knows? Maybe they will see some remnant of this project in The Last of Us 3. You never know. You never know. All right, guys. Any more comments on this? Yes, no? All right. We'll move on. Guys in the chat, again, I am loving the chat right now, guys. Some really interesting conversations going on. If you haven't done so already, smash the like button, and of course, share this episode out. And if you're new here, hey, I would love to have you stick around, as with the other guys. Hit that subscribe button. All right. Time for, well, guys, it is that time of the year. It's the last show of the year. We got to talk about our game, or games, plural, of the year. Let's see. Dots, I'll pick on you first. A lot of games, a lot of good games released this year. Any highlights? You got any favorites? It doesn't have to be one in particular.
Well, not to be on the repeat of literally a majority of other people, but I really do give it to Baldur's Gate 3. I think out of all the games I played this year, that has been the most revolutionary. Well, for me particularly, I would not say it's been life-changing, because I know there's a lot of people out there who's like, "Oh, this game literally changed like my livelihood." I'm not that extreme, but I will say that it is very much, like I picked it up. I didn't even play it during the 3 years of early access. I picked it up like a week before it came out, so I could get all the DLC for free, because it pretty much gave you the deluxe edition for free if you bought it when it was in early access. But no, it seriously was it was something else. And I the only real RPGs I really dug into in my time are, BioWare and Bethesda ones. So Skyrim, Mass Effect. Those are really the only like story-driven RPGs that I've really dug into. And I'm happy to say Baldur's Gate, it fits right with them, and if not, excels in different ways. How many lines of dialogue there are, just the fact that it actually taught me how to play D&D, because I never played I didn't start playing actual D&D like with friends and whatnot until about this year. And so for this game to come out, and then like kind of just putting like, oh, this is how you play 5e D&D, and I pick it up, I'm like, oh damn, this is how you play 5e D&D. I now know how to play this, because there's things in the tabletop that make absolutely zero sense. And then I picked it up. I picked it up on Baldur's Game. Like, oh wow, not everything is one for one. I've been told that numerous times by people who are much more experienced than me in D&D. But from what I saw, I was like, hey, this is a good way to implement that, and this is a great way to learn how to play D&D. And it is an absolute shame that the game did not come out before COVID. Obviously, I know that they worked through COVID, and they had a couple people pass away during COVID, and hearts out to them. But like, if this game actually came out during COVID, and this would give people that D&D experience while everyone's stuck inside away from other people, like it would have been monumental. But at the same time, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be a game that people are going to play for years to come, until either something bigger comes around to you replace it by the same people. I don't know how far a Baldur's Gate 4 possibly could even be, but I see this game, it's not only doing the numbers, I think it's going to last a long time too. I am to this day still seeing videos, memes, hype, discussion, discoveries. I mean, with how many lines of dialogue are in that game and how many choices you can make, there are people still posting like, oh, this is the first time I've heard this character say this, because I did this very specific chain of things that normally people would not do in their right mind. But the game developers, Larian, were like, hey, we already have this in mind. We have everything in mind. So we have dialogue for everything that you possibly could have potentially done. And I think that amount of work just in the vocal department is insane. And that's why I think Baldur's Gate 3 has my kudos. That has my game of the year, because I've touched I won't say I've touched a lot of games this year. I'm definitely not, I'm not like you guys. I know Crusader was like in like the 80s to 90s this year. Last year is like at over 100 or so.
Wow.
New games played. He likes to boast about that. It's fine. But no, that's my game of the year. And speaking of Crusader, I told him that I would speak for him in this. Say he wants to give his game of the year to Starfield. He says Starfield's number one. Alan Wake 2 is like in his top 3, if not his number 2 for this year. And then, but he wants to put the caveat that he has not played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. He owns it, but he has not played it yet. So that might have been the game of the year if he actually played it, but he doesn't know. So for me, it's Baldur's Gate. For him, it's Starfield.
Well, who knows? It could be his game of the year for next year. So time will tell. Time will tell on that. Yeah, guys in the chat, I see a few people listing their their top games of the year, yeah, please. I would love to see more people posting them. It's always exciting. I see some Starfield, Forza Motorsport. What else do we got? Redfall, Hi-Fi Rush, Hogwarts Legacy, Alan Wake 2. Yeah, hey guys, again, this year was full of awesome titles. Not gonna lie. Definitely one for the ages. I think back to, there were some years where it was just jam packed with games. 2007, 2010, definitely highlights of mine. This one, yeah, jam packed as well. All right, moving on. General MLD. I'm really curious what some of your top games were this year, because I know you played a lot of different titles. So please share, my friend.
Oh yeah, this was definitely I think one of the best years in gaming. I think of all time. 2007, you said. 2010 was good too, but I feel I didn't play it because it came to Xbox so late. But I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 does deserve it. In terms of games that I personally played, I don't know, I'm driven a lot by nostalgia as well. Played a lot of games on my backlog too. But so in that regard, I'm gonna say Dead Space remake and RE4 remake, because I mean, for one, Dead Space remake, it basically took that feeling of just that horror that Dead Space was so fun for me, and it took it up a notch, because it had this thing called it's called the Director, I think. It basically made necromorph spawns random. And I played the first game so much that I knew exactly where each one was going to spawn. But this game, I got some genuine scares, because I re-enter a room and all of a sudden I just get like ganked from behind. I'm like, what the? And then the whole thing happens. Every encounter is different, and I think that's what it was really good how they made the game just feel fresh to me in that regard. And RE4, the same framework was there, but it did feel it's like its own game in many ways as well. And so it was like nostalgic, but also a new game at the same time. I really enjoyed that, because that was actually my first mainline Resident Evil game, was actually RE4. I just like played around random entries after that. So this game, it was a special place to me anyway. And round it off, like my top 5 in no particular order are those two. Atomic Heart. That game came out of nowhere. Really surprised me how good it was. It was just like robot BioShock essentially. Just really good. Starfield. Yeah, just like space opera. Like go out there, explore. It's like you have your own ship, your own crew. I've always wanted that kind of game. So Starfield was also a great game for me. But I feel like my personal game of the year came out of nowhere was Lies of P. Because I'm relatively new to the Souls genre. I only beat Elden Ring before Lies of P. And, they say Lies of P is coming to Game Pass day one. And it's okay, I try it out. The more I play it, the more I love this game. The characters, the story, the world building, all excellent. And just that, it's my game of the year because it gives you that feeling of triumph. Because I'm not really a Souls kind of guy, but I am persistent when I want to beat a game. I'll do what it takes. And that feeling when you beat a hard boss with everything you got, and you have just like the smallest bit of health left, but you beat the boss. That feeling of just perseverance and triumph, like beating the odds, like like based on your own skill, it's a good feeling to have. And for that, I'm gonna give it to Lies of P. So that developer, I forgot their name, but like hats off to them. They knew what they were doing, and I look forward to their next game. So yeah, that's me. But yeah, I had a solid mix of indie games too. Sea of Stars was great. Yeah, played games on the 360 backlog, played some Xbox One games. Like I beat Persona 5 this year as well, because it finally came to Game Pass. That was a great game too. Overall, just a really solid year. No complaints on my end. A lot of great games.
All right. I'm glad you mentioned, yeah, like Lies of P. I haven't had a chance to play that, but I know some others on the panel have. Really tough but enjoyable title, Souls-like game, and a few others there. I'll just chime in here and say mine, guys. Some notable mentions, again, they didn't necessarily get released this year, but I've been playing them this year and they've been really, really fun. Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, the co-op Ghostbusters game where you trap ghosts and go into different locations. Had a blast playing it with Centurion and a friend of mine. You might see him in the chat sometimes, Nod Buggy. Been playing that a bit. Really, really fun experience. Again, just full-on Ghostbusters fun. I really have had a good time with it, and I want to definitely play it more in the coming weeks. This game came out last year as well. The Callisto Protocol came out late last year. General MLD actually had lent me the title. I just played it about a month or so ago. I really enjoyed it. I got knees deep into it, and it is just such a welcoming experience. It's a little more rougher than Dead Space. I mean, it's very much akin to Dead Space, obviously, with the studio talent that was behind it and so on. That being said, it is its own thing, and I really liked the combat to it, and I would just love to see where they take it next. I hope that there's a sequel to it. I just gorgeous game, all kinds of detail to it, and even just like the sounds of it too. I don't know, it really, really blew me away in a lot of ways. As well, Warhammer 40k Dark Tide, nice co-op experience there as well that I want to spend more time with going into next year. It's on Game Pass, had fun with it. Again, as you guys know, I talk about Warhammer 40k a lot, and it is just a really fun co-op experience. A lot like Vermintide, except futuristic. I highly suggest checking it out. There are some smaller titles too that I did really enjoy, such as Proteus, or I'm just trying to think of another one. Cocoon was nice. Again, that was in Game Pass. My top game, though, my game of the year, that would have to be Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart is just a very fun and engaging campaign. I personally found it very compelling story-wise, a very interesting world to explore and just get lost in. Very reminiscent of BioShock, very. As MLD said, with robots, but there is other stuff laced in there as well. There's all kinds of lore in there, lots of, again, backstory to it. The combat, I really enjoyed the combat to it with the gunplay, the upgrades and the abilities that you can unlock as well. And yeah, there's DLC coming out for it. I actually still need to buy that, get into that as well. And I guess a different type of game. I know it got ragged on a lot because it came from a Russian studio, but again, the game was pretty unique too, and it does have a Slavic kind of a hook to it as well with the Slavic culture. Again, I thought it was really worth checking out. I highly got just enjoyed it, and I just really want to play through it again. So Atomic Heart is my game of the year personally. Let's see, moving on. Grimes, why don't you share with us what your game or multiple games of the year were this past year?
Yeah, I mean, like you guys mentioned, we got so many good games this year, so it's difficult to choose. That being said, some of my favorite games this year have been Hi-Fi Rush, like many of you guys mentioned, Like a Dragon Ishin. I just love the Yakuza games. They're so fun, and I love that game. Dead Space, the remake, like General MOD mentioned, it's such a good game and a true remake. The guys that made that game really cared about making a good Dead Space, and I loved it. The only thing I don't like about that game is the character or like the model they chose for Isaac. But other than that, it's such a good game. Obviously, Starfield. Diablo 4 is another game that I really enjoyed. And another thing I have to agree with General is about Lies of P. such a good game. And I'm not a Souls type of player either, but I love the characters. I love the story. Such a unique way to tell a Pinocchio story. But like many of you guys, I would probably have to go with Baldur's Gate for my game of the year. It's just the team did such an incredible job, and it deserves all the accolades. They proved the industry wrong in the sense that this type of games do sell, and now companies chasing trends will try to copy them. But you know, for my personal game of the year, that I've played, I'm probably leaning more towards Starfield because of how much fun I had with it, building your spaceship, exploring planets, finding armor and whatnot. And yes, it can get repetitive, but I still haven't gotten bored of it. It was actually my most played game of the year, having put in just under 200 hours. And I'm not even remotely done with it. I've only done 4 main quests. So I've got so much more, and I will probably get back to it either during the holidays or early next year. And, you know, with Hi-Fi Rush, I love the art style, the characters too. It reminds me of Futurama. That's why I loved it so much.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you know, like the characters, in a way, they do the way they act and their humor. It does. It has a reminiscence to Futurama. Uh, can I also add my least favorite game of the year?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. Why not?
I know. I mean, like it's all about being positive, but it unfortunately it will have to go to Forza Motorsport. Shocker, right? I mean, I just don't like. I don't like how much they regressed with this new game. And funnily enough, it was actually my second most played game of the year, which was I was a bit shocked with it because I just found my hating myself every time I played it because I just wasn't having fun with it. It's not a good racing game if you're talking about a simulation. So I wanted more from it. But anyway, Baldur's Gate, and you know another game that I haven't played. It's on my list to play, but I'm excited to play, and I know from hearing Centurion, RoboCop, I'm excited to play it when I get a chance. But the gameplay looks so much fun and so much nostalgia as well.
Actually, funny you say that. I meant to play it today to start playing. I got busy during the day, so unfortunately, whatever time I wanted to spend with it, it's gonna be delayed till tomorrow. But I have a good feeling about that game as well, Grimes.
And you know the studio came out, or the publisher came out and said they were happy with how well it did sales wise. So hopefully we'll get more RoboCop games.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind another Terminator one personally. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, no, some pretty good games there you mentioned as well. Let's see, who else do we got? Oh yeah, well, Centurion. Since Grimes mentioned you, please round out our panel here. I mean, I know you were playing a bunch of games this year. I don't know, what was your favorites? You know, what really stood out to you this past year? 2023 was really well, it was really something, right?
Right. Well, that's where, I play a lot. I love also playing like offshoot games like stuff like from the 360, stuff like that. So I'm all over the place, but if we keep up with like, you know, I would definitely, we'll start off at least the one disappointment of the year for me was Gollum. Yeah, I bought the game, I played it. That's my thing is I love playing weird, obscure games, and um regretfully that one didn't turn out very well, and that was because the game basically broke. Had nothing to do with writing or anything like that, just the game broke. But I'm glad you did mention Callisto Protocol. That was a game that, came out pretty much around this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you mentioned that one. There's also, if I'm right, High on Life also came out around this time last
It
year.
was a late yes, and you know what? Not to interrupt, but I wasn't expecting very much, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So.
Right. And I played it on Game Pass, and I just recently bought it with the deal on Game Pass where it came with High on Knife DLC. I still gotta play it, but yeah, essentially I now own High on Life. I gotta play the DLC, but I mean that game. I mean, if you want to talk about a niche style of game that I don't want to see disappear, it's those games that get steeped in that gritty, raunchy humor that we've seen in the past with Conker's Bad Fur Day, the South Park games, The Stick of Truth, and The Fractured But Whole. And then High on Life carried on with that. It's basically that adult-oriented, raunchy humor I don't want to see. Basically, I don't want to see gaming become too PG or PC. Like, I mean, it is what it is. It's an art form, and I'm glad that even Grimes mentioned Futurama, because even yet another cartoon that can sometimes push the envelope when it comes to making adult-oriented humor. But going back to other games, like I'm surprised nobody mentioned this one, but again, I'm a huge entertainment buff. I put a lot of time into the game. I thought it was actually a very well put together game. Didn't have very many bugs.
Paw
Let's
Patrol.
just put right, but like let's make fun of I know Larian's out here trying to like wave some magic flag like we don't do microtransactions, and he has a lot. Baldur's Gate 3 is a very well-deserving game. I have not played it, so this is going to be the only mention of it. I eventually will get around to playing it. I'm pretty sure I will enjoy it because it's an RPG. What I don't like is, it's like he seems to be very outspoken about services like Game Pass. So I really hope his success doesn't ever falter, where he has to go back into like being like, oh well, we put it in a subscription service, and then he becomes a hypocrite. But I like how they said like, oh, we don't do microtransactions and blah blah blah, and the game I'm about to mention didn't have microtransactions other than the deluxe content that came with the deluxe version of the game. But Baldur's Gate 3 also has their own content, as Dots mentioned. So I'm not going to say that the game is totally without microtransactions, but we're talking about Hogwarts Legacy. That game was an absolute blast to play. I don't care about the author of the books. Karma and the laws of the universe will definitely come to play on however it unfolds for her. I'm talking about the developers that were involved in that game. They created a very well put together game that was dedicated to the lore, and just the craft of that game was amazing. The spells felt right. It definitely felt like a Hogwarts experience. And in my opinion, this has been the year for seeing some games that were steeped in the entertainment industry that are really kind of shining examples for me. Like Grimes pointed out, RoboCop is going to be one of those mentions where I say, if you want to follow a trend for single player games, it's like you don't need these huge, monstrous AAA budget games that are steeped in an entertainment style, like from the entertainment industry. Nacon really hits it out of the water. They did it with Terminator was it Resistance?
Yeah, that's correct. Resistance.
So they did it with Terminator Resistance. They did it again with RoboCop Rogue City. They took the fanfare for the game. They really used the lore to their advantage, and they crafted a very good experience in RoboCop Rogue City. And definitely that is a game. I mean, if you really love 80s sci-fi and that, I mean, just that B-rated style of sci-fi, like really RoboCop. I mean, definitely RoboCop is your game. Um, right now I'm currently playing Avatar. I don't care that it was done by Ubisoft. I don't care that you could probably see some hints of Assassin's Creed or Far Cry in it, because Assassin's Creed and Far Cry are good games. They're taking stuff that I like from games that I like, and they're putting Avatar on it. And it's not like they just skinned over it and it's some crappy version of Avatar. The game is beautiful to look at. It's a lot of fun running around on Pandora. So that's definitely, this has been the year for some games that have a lot of entertainment value. Another one that I put a lot of time into was Midnight Suns. People really, I really hope that a lot of people don't let them pass on that game just because of the style of the game that it is. I didn't know if I'd like it or not, but I really did enjoy the I don't want to say it's like a deck builder, but you obviously have cards dealt out to you to be able to make your moves with the characters, but it had a very well done story, a lengthy story, a lot of DLC that happened to deal with other characters like Storm from X-Men, Deadpool, Venom. I even think oh my god, what's the bat character? I know it begins with an N. Mobius? I don't know. They did a Marvel movie about him recently.
Oh,
but
Morbius.
I think Morbius made it in there, like the vampire character.
With Leto, right?
Yeah,
These are-
Jared Leto. Yeah.
But that's the other thing. But none of Marvel Midnight Suns has anything to do with the Hollywood actors. Like Blade is his own character. Spider-Man is his own thing. Like none of them had, like, I mean, even Tony Stark does not look like Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. looked like Tony Stark. This is like all comic book style stuff. And that's where it was great because I mean, you even have the Ghost Riders in there. Did anybody ever play Evil West?
I own it. I own it,
yeah.
but I haven't played it yet, to be honest.
See,
Sorry.
that was a fun one. That was a fun one for me. I mean, it was like a vampires and werewolves meets Wild Wild West with Will Smith. Just that zany like steampunk style western. That was a good fun one. Dead Island 2. I'm surprised people didn't mention Dead Island 2. Everybody thought that game was going to be like a bomb when it came out, like a bomb in a bad way. And Dead Island 2 actually hit on all cylinders when it was launched. And actually, I'm hearing that I got to get into the DLC, but I hear some of the DLC for that game is some of the must-play DLC for 2023. We also have like at least for me another game that stood out, like a Telltale style series of games. It's not from Telltale, but Star Trek Resurgence. Nobody try that one?
No.
Nope. The minute I say Star Trek, people probably freaking zombified on that one. It was a very well put together game, very, very dedicated towards the lore of Star Trek. Built off of and it's funny, it builds off of an episode from Star Trek The Next Generation. And it was definitely a very well crafted story. I had a lot of fun playing it. And let's see, Immortals of Avium. Any of you guys play that one?
No.
I think
was a good
Crusader
game.
did, but
Huh? What are you saying, General?
No, I heard it was a good but niche game.
It was a niche game, that was for sure. It was definitely it's good to see EA still wants to do single player games. I mean, they published it, but the developer that did it has connections with EA, and I mean, it was a very beautiful game, very interesting story. I enjoyed playing it. I know that it didn't have very much success behind it, but I also know that it was going up against some juggernauts when it was released. Remnant 2, that was a good one, and that's where I'm glad you mentioned Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, because I mean, you want to talk about like a games as a service game that deserves a lot of recognition. Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed.
Mm-hmm.
That they have been adding a lot to that game. They just did some DLC for the game. It's a lot of fun, and we've had a great time playing it with you and your friend. I'm glad General MLD mentioned Lies of P. My first time getting into an actual Souls style game. I really do believe that game deserves a little bit more recognition than it got, like at the Game Awards. It was fun playing it. Sometimes I wanted to throw my controller at the wall, but I mean, the story that it was crafted around the idea of Pinocchio, and by the time you're done playing that game, you realize that it is definitely a very different take on Pinocchio. I will give an honorable mention, I guess, for Starfield. I enjoyed Starfield, but I have still yet to complete it. But I mean, is it wrong to say Starfield did not grab me as much as Fallout 4 did? Fallout 4, I could not put down. Starfield, I keep kind of playing it for a few days, dropping it for a few days, playing it for a few days.
To be fair, it's just all about taste. Like, for example, I'm probably in the same boat as you, but I do still plan on playing through more. I'm a lot more earlier on than you. At the same time, though, like games like Skyrim really grabbed me right from the beginning.
Yes.
Fallout 4 as well. So
So,
it just,
and that-
theme wise, right? Some stuff
Right.
just grabs you easier.
Well, I'm a huge sci-fi fan, but now that I see how the end game, like the new game plus, is going to work, and I mean, if you haven't read the articles yet online, I mean, I don't see myself re-rolling the game. Maybe I might beat it and re-roll it in another next year or whatever, or sometime when I'm just like, I miss Starfield. But I don't see myself being one of these people that want to re-roll the game as like multiple times. And that's where with Fallout 4, I mean, I think I played through the game twice at least. I mean, I enjoyed the hell out of Fallout 4, but for some reason, Starfield is a good game, but it's not like hitting all those buttons for me that makes me feel like, oh my God, this is an absolute masterpiece. I guess the one game from my backlog, Outriders, really sucks that game did not get off to a very good start, but I will definitely say that I'm having a lot more fun with it than I have with Destiny lately. And that's pretty much where I've been kind of gaming throughout the year, just all these different ones. But I'd say my number one title this year, that if we wanted to put like a game of the year stamp on it, would be Hogwarts Legacy.
All right.
Sorry,
All
I'm
right.
probably long-winded.
No, it's all right. I went on a bit too, and again, we had a lot of games, everyone here, that we were pretty strong, passionate about. So it's fine scent, honestly. Like, I could probably list off a couple of others, but honestly, I know a couple of the games that I picked up as well this year. I just have to push to next year.
Well,
so
I know I could always be like, oh, well, Elder Scrolls Online, but for me, Elder Scrolls Online is like breathing air at this point, so there's no point in talking about it.
exactly, and again, there's still stuff that I need to touch that got added in. For example, I still need to play some more Halo Infinite because of the what was it? The firefight update. I probably love the crap out of that. And again, there's other things. So, but I have to make time for it. Gotta make lots of time for it. So actually, speaking about time, guys, any other comments about Game of the Year? Yes, no?
I just want to say, right now I'm playing Warhammer Bolt Shot, and
Bolt Gun?
this game's pretty amazing. It's like old school Doom, but mixed with Warhammer, and I'm having a blast. Like, I really like that I got into Warhammer this year. Like, a whole new world of possibility just opened up to me.
Yes. Actually, yeah, I did play that. Well, I had started playing I got through the first section of it, the first chapter, well, not chapter, but first section of it anyways, like the 1/3 of the way through, and it's a lot of fun, guys. Again, it's like a classic style General MLD said Doom game, and it's over the top, but it's awesome. It's awesome, and I have to.
Warhammer usually is. Yeah.
You're correct. You're correct on that. And actually, next year, one of the games that I'm looking forward to is a Warhammer title, Space Marine 2. And it actually has a date now. So, September 9th. So,
Holy cow, they pushed it that far?
yeah.
It's okay. Let them cook. That's okay.
Well, the only thing I hope with Space Marine 2, they relaunch the Space Marine 1, because right now it's like trapped on Xbox 360, and I know you can get like a definitive edition on PC, and I really hope they bring that definitive edition over on a console.
I suspect personally, again, I don't know anything, but I suspect that another reason why there's been delays is they have a remaster cooking of some sort. So, and it would make sense too. The game was released like
2010, I think.
11. So it's been what, like 11 years, something like that, 11, 12 years, if not more. So
Really? I think it was sooner. I think it was before 2011.
No, it was it was 2011. I remember when it came out. It's either I could see them updating it in some regard. I don't know if they'd have.
You're right. September 6th, 2011. Okay. I mean, September, 2011. And wow, for some reason, because I remember playing that game, living somewhere, but I'm just like, are you serious that I was there in 2011? It feels like it was longer than that.
It does. But I don't know, again, I could see them doing something with an update of some sort, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I would welcome it, though. Honestly, awesome title. I have no problem going through it again. But yeah, lots of games to play until that one comes. All right, guys. Looks like we're we've just kind of covered everything that we possibly could tonight. Great chat, honestly, from all the lads regarding Disney gaming comments on Xbox games, The Last of Us Online getting canceled, and our personal games of 2023. Now, to everyone that joined us tonight, thank you, of course, for stopping by. And if you would kindly hit the like button and share out this episode, it would be greatly appreciated. It's always awesome having you guys stop by. Next, over to outros, starting off with Dots. Dots, hey, good stuff tonight. Again, loved your opinions, thoughts, and again, some interesting Game of the Year titles there that you listed off. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, no, another great Sunday, a great year, good way to round out 2023. Can't wait for next month when everyone writes 2023 on their like time cards and then has to cross out the 3 and write a 4 instead. Classic, just classic normal things. But no, yeah, everyone can find me at DotsRTS on Twitter and on Xbox, because like I said before, I actually changed my username on Xbox to match because I think it was more appropriate. But yeah, no, awesome stuff. I did want to make one comment that you were talking about how Nintendo is doing well, and I had completely forgotten that like 4 days ago, the DLC for the new Pokemon game came out, and I was completely oblivious to it. There was like no coverage, no news, no hype, no commercials, no ads. I was like, man, the fact that Pokemon isn't even getting like the normal treatment these days, I was like, oh boy, and that's not a good sign for Nintendo. So another thing to keep in mind for the future, I guess. But
Oh no, I hear you on the. Actually, I didn't even know about that either. But I haven't been in the Pokemon loop. But just hey, Nintendo stuff still sells. Just I don't know, maybe everybody just busy doing something else instead of playing Pokemon at the moment.
Well, tis the season.
You see, that's why when Christmas morning hits, then people will be playing the Pokemon DLC. But we'll see. Moving on down, General MLD. Hey, lots of good stuff tonight for you, and great way to end off the year, I'd say.
Oh yeah, you guys can find me at MLD Ghost on X and Gamertag Ghost MLD. Yep, it's been a great year, guys. Looking forward to starting a new one on the right foot, and lots of games to look forward to.
Indeedy. Indeed. Centurion. Hey, again, great way to cap off the end of the year, looking back, some really awesome shows. I enjoyed every single one personally. And just this one in particular, great overall for me. Where can everybody follow you at?
Yeah, it was definitely another great year of chatting with you guys and always talking about our favorite passion, gaming, and hearing everybody's takes on it. For those that want to continue hearing my take and my opinion on everything, please find me at Centurion1307 on YouTube. You can also find me at Centurion1307 on Xbox Live and, of course, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it this year. And also, you can find me here every Sunday night with this great group of gentlemen on the TXR Podcast. And obviously, I will not see you guys for 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, we'll see if we can get some gaming in, right? So,
Dark
Yeah,
Side.
as long as you guys only miss my shrill voice.
I don't know. It's hard to go a week without hearing it. All right. Going down here. Who else do we got? Oh yeah, Grimes. Where can everybody find you, pal? Again, great stuff tonight. Loved your thoughts as well. Yeah, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Fake Mayhem OG, and I just wanted to say happy holidays to everyone, and can't wait to see what Microsoft and Xbox have cooking for next year. I would love to see if we get some nice surprise like Hi-Fi Rush did this year. So, happy holidays, and looking forward to next year.
Yeah, they did surprise us at the beginning of in January, so I wouldn't be surprised if they had some kind of a show again early on. Might not be January, maybe February even. Maybe with a little bit of Activision content. You never know, right? That'd be nice.
Maybe south of midnight could be a nice surprise drop.
Well, that's an interesting. Yeah, you never know. I mean,
because
push though.
I don't know. Like that's the thing. I don't know how big that game is. That's the thing.
I think it's AAA.
Really?
So they need a proper marketing push. I think.
Maybe we'll see.
But you never know.
It might be. But again, there could be a game in there that we might not even know is being developed. I mean, look at Hi-Fi Rush. Nobody knew about that thing. So
yeah.
We'll see. Time will tell, guys. Time will tell. But as for me, you guys can find my content, as you know, on YouTube, but I'm also on Rumble, BitChute, a whole bunch of other different places under Invader Gaming. I'm actually working on a review right now, and I'm hoping for it to be out before, Christmas time. So, hey, fingers crossed on that, right? Otherwise, thanks everyone for being here tonight. We do plan on taking the next 2 weeks off for the holidays, and we'll be back, I believe it's January 7th, so again, just a quick 2 weeks. And let's see, I'm not sure if there'll be any groundbreaking news by then. Usually it's kind of quiet. Then again, we do get surprises in January at times when it comes to recent years, whether it be acquisitions of the gigantic nature or other things, but we shall see. Anyways, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to all you wonderful people, and we'll catch you later, guys. Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2024.